On this season of Destination Earth, Akane and I head back to her home country of Japan to explore the southern reaches of the island. Join us as we make our way across Nagasaki Prefecture, as we learn about its atomic past, discover its incredible countryside, and hike some of Japan's most scenic trails. Where are we off to today? Let's find out. Wow, it's hard to believe that it's been about 4 months since our last trip. This past summer we had an awesome time exploring Prince Edward Island and all the national parks and the cities and everything that this amazing province had to offer. But now that summer has come and gone and the cold weather was on its way in, we were excited to head somewhere a little bit warmer.
It's been 3 years since I have seen my parents and my family. Due to COVID, we have postponed our trip home twice. Although we don't like the idea of traveling during a pandemic, we felt this was the time to go, as we couldn't wait any longer.
And so we packed up our gear and headed for the door. It was an early morning flight. The air was cool, but our hearts were warm with excitement. It's about a 30-minute drive from our place in the city to the airport, so we had lots of time to get excited before heading on our first flight. So it's about 3:45 in the morning, and normally I'm not that happy to get up this early, but we're here at the airport and we're going to be going back to Japan this morning. So typically we would be getting to the airport by either a friend or we would take the bus in from the city, but being so early we didn't have either of those options. So the cab was a great way to get here, so we're about to go check in and begin our first of 3 flights today. Boarding the plane, we were excited to head to Toronto. After a delayed takeoff, our time in Toronto was short-lived before hopping on our second plane to Newark. Here, we took a bus to change terminals, rushing to get to our gate once again. We always plan on several hours at the airport in between flights, just in case we run into delays like we did today. And I'm really glad we did. So we have made it now to New Jersey. This is one of our last stops before we actually get onto the plane to go to Japan. So once we made it to Toronto, it was a really quick turnover between the time that we arrived and when we had to get on the plane to New Jersey. In fact, we were the last people on board because we didn't realize, but we were actually going to do pre-customs or pass customs while we were in Toronto for the United States. So that took a little longer than what we had originally planned for, and I'm very glad that we were able to actually get on the plane. But it was a quick journey over, only an hour between Toronto and here. So we got about an hour left, and then it's the long flight tonight. As we headed out, we headed west. One of Akane's favorite views was when we passed over the mountains in the north, over the Yukon and Alaska. So traveling during COVID has changed a lot of things, but one thing we were not expecting was this flight. So we were called right away. They just boarded everybody all at once. There was no zones going on, and the plane is essentially a ghost town. There's, I don't know, maybe 25 people on this massive plane, and we've never seen anything like it. We have a whole row to ourselves. There's rows on either end of us that are completely empty. The rows in front of us, behind us, I mean, I can literally see, I don't know, maybe 8 people from where I'm sitting, and this is a huge plane. So this is one of the weirdest experiences we've ever had while flying. What seemed like 8 days later, we finally arrived in Japan. Okay, so we have now landed in Narita here in Tokyo, and this is the first time where I've ever been on a plane where we have to actually stay on board for a little while. So they're disembarking people that have to make connections, and then we're going to be taken out slowly to go through the whole customs process, the whole COVID process, because right now you have to remember Japan's not letting in any tourists, so I'm actually here on a spouse visa. So it's a little bit different of a situation, which is also why there's nobody on board. So last night we were able to stretch across 3 seats. We were able to lie down and sleep for a little while. So as far as 13-hour flights go, this was pretty good. So I'm wondering how quickly this process will take today. They had thought up to 4 hours, but since there's so few people on the plane, I'm hoping it will be a little bit faster.
After landed, we need to go through so many process. Have to show so many paperwork many times, and we had the COVID test which was spit in some containers, and we need to wait to get our result back. It took almost 2 hours, and finally we made it, and we went to customs. And I'm Japanese, so I don't need to really check anything, but Josh needs twice his passport and his background, I guess, and he got the fingerprint, everything, and everything is done. Now we are waiting for the bus, which is take us to night hotel.
With so many restrictions in the country, I wasn't surprised when I got stopped for a little more inspection. Luckily, it wasn't much. I just had to go see a second officer, they verified the documents, and we were sent on our way. See, it was a little bit more of a process. Because Japan wasn't allowing any tourists, I had to actually go to get a special spousal visa. So before the Japan trip, in the summer, was it before or after PEI?
After PEI.
It was after PEI. I had to fly to Montreal for 3 days to go to the Japanese consulate and apply for this visa in person. So it was a pretty quick process, bit of an expensive process just to go get a piece of paper in your passport, but once we made it to Japan, it was 100% worth it. And so, we boarded the bus that took the out-of-town guests, like Akane and I, to our designated hotel. Here, we would spend the night before her parents came to pick us up the next morning. Like any good travel vlogger, we needed to show you the space and a typical Japanese hotel room. So we finally arrived and checked into the hotel. It has been a long 24 plus hours. We're going to grab a little bit of food from one of the convenience stores that is close by to the hotel. But until then, I just wanted to show you what our room is like. You do have to remember that we are in Japan, and of course the rooms are a lot smaller than what we're used to in Canada and the United States. This is it. We've got a small, I would say probably a double bed. We got a nice little TV and mini fridge, kettle, couple glasses, and really everything you need without all the extra wasted space. And with that, we hit the hay. The next morning seemed to come quick, as we kept an eye out for Akane's parents, as we couldn't contain our excitement to see them again. Well, it's a new day, and it's our first full day here in Japan. Thankfully, we were able to sleep pretty well last night. You know, after about 24 hours of travel, we were a little worried that with a 12-hour time difference, our bodies just couldn't quite adjust to the new time. But I think for the most part we did pretty good. We only woke up about an hour earlier than we wanted to, so we were up at about 5 a.m. today. But that gave us some time to get on the computer, do a little bit of work. So today we're going to be heading to Akane's parents. So that's about 2.5, 3 hours north of Tokyo. So we're just waiting for them to arrive, and then we'll get settled into place where we're going to be doing our quarantine. So that means despite both of us having both doses of the vaccine, being tested here, we still have to self-isolate for at least 10 days. After that 10 days, we can go and get tested once again, and then we can go about our time here and do whatever we want. If not, then we do have to wait the full 14 days. And with that, we met up with her parents and began the drive north. I loved the drive from the airport there. The last time Akane and I were in Japan, we took a train most of the way, so this experience was completely different. En route, Akane had a chance to catch up and talk with her parents. With me not speaking Japanese, conversation was limited, but I enjoyed my time there nonetheless. Arriving home, we were ready to jump into quarantine. Now, our quarantine during our time in Japan was a little bit different than we expected. Before coming, we needed to download some apps that tracked our location and served as a way for us to check in with the government. The My SOS app seen here helped us once or twice a day to report our health condition. And then at least once a day, the government would call and have us video chat to prove we were at home. Now, the video chat was all automated, but it did record your screen and your location, so they made sure you were at home where you were supposed to be. Unlike back in Canada, however, we were still allowed to leave the house.
Every day, Josh and I would go for a 1 hour walk. My parents live about a 20-minute stroll from the beach, so we enjoyed heading down to the shore and looking out into the Pacific Ocean and watching other stuff while big container ships sailed by in the distance.
During our time in the house, we had family come to visit, so our time in quarantine didn't really seem all that long, didn't really seem restrictive or drawn out. In fact, it was a great way to relax after that really long flight, gave us some time to adjust to the new time zone, and then just simply enjoy time with family. Now, with that in mind, we were really excited to finish this up, get our COVID tests, as we had flights booked to a different spot in Japan we were about to explore. So we're going to be heading to the south of Japan, a place that neither myself or Akane has been to before. Now, you're probably wondering where that's at. Well, you're going to have to wait to find out.